It's the transition that's the most disruptive to the core. And transitions are the most commonly injurious place in yoga. Transitions are when we get hurt. Transitions are messy. So clean up your transitions if you think you're good at this pose. Good prep poses for pointer dog are coming to table and rocking forward and back. So your arms are straight. Some of you can do this on your forearms and rock forward and back using your arms to generate the motion. This helps to quiet hip flexors, hip flexor dominance. When you use your arms to generate that backwards movement, the hip flexors can quiet down. It can be very helpful for those of you with hip impingement. It's extremely helpful for lumbar flexion types, those of you that tend to round the low back too easily and tuck the pelvis, those of you who have trouble flexing the hips. Table pose rocking is a gold mine. It also helps to warm up the shoulders. I particularly like to do this on the forearms with a block between the hands. So you're on hands and knees, come down to your forearms, grab a block, place it between your hands, not your forearms, your hands, and rotate your forearms so the palms face up. This helps the entire arm externally rotate. And then rock forward and back slowly. You're not going for range of motion. You're not going all the way to child's pose. In fact, you're trying to maintain a fairly neutral spine as you rock forward and back. So don't let the pelvis go more than halfway to your heels. Less than that is fine for most people. You can shift forward quite a bit till your chin is over the block. For some of you, even past it, strengthening the shoulders. That challenges the thoracic spine to not dip and hollow out for many people. For the flat-backed people who tend to reverse their thoracic curve, rocking forward is an opportunity to push down and fill the space between the shoulder blades. This forearm rocking can help you tune into the movement of the scapula along the rib cage. The shoulder blade slides across the surface of the rib cage. It's not locked there, nor should it ever be. It's sliding and gliding. As you rock forward and your chin goes past the blocks, your shoulder blades have slid towards your pelvis and they've maybe become a little narrower on the back. As you rock your hips back towards your heels, your fixed arms stay in place. So now the shoulder blades slide towards your head, which is okay and good and appropriate. Okay, now we should get to some variations on this pose that are fun. Beyond dead bug, we've got the dog peeing on the fire hydrant. This builds on when you were on your back and you tipped one knee out to the side when the leg was bent. You can do the same thing on all fours. Lift that bent knee out to the side. It should only lift about halfway up. So show restraint. Don't go for range. If you go for range and you start to abduct that hip more than 45 degrees, your lumbopelvic region should rotate. And then we're not neutral. So this is teaching you some restraints. It's teaching you how far that leg would go out in tree pose. It's teaching you how far that leg can abduct in some of our standing poses. And we want to respect that. Great place to use the pole. One of my students calls this old dog peeing because it's not lifting the leg that high. At the same time that hip is abducting, the leg is lifting out to the side, lift the opposite arm out to the side. I like to do this with the hand behind the head, elbow points to the floor to start, just as the knee is down on the floor, and then widen opposite elbow and knee at the same time. Coordinate that movement. And you'll start to feel the action of that functional myofascial line as we improve the coordination of these opposite limbs moving simultaneously. You'll feel a connection from the one shoulder through the latissimus muscle that connects to the low back to the opposite glute, helping to lift the leg and widen the leg out to the side. That's a functional line. At the same time, The limbs that are on the floor, those diagonal limbs are functionally connected as well. So the forearms pec muscle, that chest muscle, is connecting to your rectus abdominis, your six pack, and then is connecting to the inner thigh of the opposite leg. So the floor limbs are really the name of the game once this is more of a balance pose and you're navigating gravity more directly in the pointer dog variations. Especially if you have a very back-bendy student, I would say concentrate on the hand that's on the floor and the knee that's on the floor not moving. They could even drag the hand isometrically back and then drag the knee isometrically forward just to tone the front of the body to focus on the front myofascial functional line. For you students who tend to round in the pose, they can't get a big lift in the leg, they can't back bend easily, they tend to tuck their pelvis and round their low back, have them focus on feeling the upper back tone, feeling the leg lift, even feeling that lumbar spine area tone as that thoracolumbar fascia gains some much needed tone for those lumbar flexion types. This pose is so good. You can really therapeutically direct it towards the side of the core that a student needs to tone. Do they need to tone the back of the core or the front of the core? Another variation of that old dog peeing is to widen the hand so that it's in a goal post. So again, you start with the elbow pointing towards the floor, knee pointing towards the floor, widen the elbow out to the side. The arm is more internally rotated here. As long as you can set that shoulder onto the back and then widen it, you'll be in a good place. If when the arm is bent in that goal post, the shoulder sort of hangs out of the socket and then you go to lift it, you can get some pain and discomfort along the top of the shoulder. That's your body telling you that you are not in a good position. It's not moving in a good pattern. So instead, point that elbow towards the floor, draw the shoulder onto the back, then widen the elbow. Subscribe on our website to see the free tutorial of how to do that shoulder action correctly, theyogaposers.com. Okay, our last few variations here are the quad stretch in pointer dog. So you're on hands and knees, you take your left hand back, reach your right leg up, grab that ankle, and stretch the right quad. The most common misalignment we'll see here is that as you reach back with your left arm to grab your right foot or ankle, you'll twist to the left quite a bit, and you might stay twisted as you hold the leg. See if you can bend the elbow, draw the head of the arm bone back, and then slowly square your chest to face straight ahead. It's a great shoulder opener. Just as in every variation of this pose, but especially this quad stretch, you will see a difference between diagonal pairs. Anytime there's one diagonal pair that's not as good and it looks and feels really different, work on that pair more. Catch that diagonal pair up. A very challenging variation in this pose is to basically do it in plank. So you come to plank pose. I think it's easier than just doing it from pointer dog. Come to plank. Bend one knee and let that knee hover, and then whichever knee is hovering off the floor, lift the opposite arm. If you want to make it more challenging, start in table, stretch right leg back, foot on the floor, lift the left knee, level the pelvis, get steady, and then lift right arm. So it's the opposite arm from the hovering knee. Very challenging, and I see a ton of differences side to side. This is when you'll get a good sense of your body's instinctual response to this unusual challenge. You might have the response to round your spine and shorten the front of your core, and some people will lose control of the front core and arch in the back. Whatever you're doing, go to the opposite functional line, re-engage. So if you're arching too much, re-engage through the front of the core. If you're rounding, find that strength in the back body so that you can do this variation with a neutral spine. Another variation of this pose is to go from table to side plank. And once you're in side plank, same arm, same leg are down. They become your foundation limbs. It starts to turn on that lateral line. The gluteal is part of that lateral line, so it's very good to get that fired up. And as you come back towards table, go as slowly as you can. You get to one of our most challenging variations of pointer dog, which is the same arm and leg floating. So you're in a right side plank, that left arm and left leg are floating. Stretch those out long, and then slowly orient your torso closer toward parallel to the floor. And try to keep the left arm and left leg simultaneously up. Same, instead of opposite pair. Is it impossible? Send me your picture. If you can get a perfectly neutral spine with a perfectly level pelvis, I don't think it's physically possible. But it's very challenging, and it can be fun, or it can be super frustrating if you want it to be also. That very action of whether or not it's possible to square and level the hips here gets us into the therapeutic value of this pose, which is to reduce that hip adduction, adduction, adding to the midline. What happens is the student goes to lift the left leg, the pelvis shifts to the right knee ends up narrower than the right hip joint. The foundation leg is no longer perpendicular to the floor. That's the hip that's adducted to the midline. It's easier to think of it as the pelvis shifts to the right, but it's really hip adduction. And when it's hip adduction, those adductor muscles are overworking, and the abductors, the opposite ones, are underworking. So you got to firm those up, squeeze firm the outer hip, and resist the pelvis shifting. So what I often tell students is shift the pelvis towards the leg that's lifting up. Say you're going to lift your left leg up. Keep shifting your pelvis left as you lift the left leg up. That's a way of understanding the job that you're supposed to do. At the same time, bow in, look back towards your right thigh, make sure it stays perpendicular to the floor. This is very, very hard to do. If people have this movement pattern of hip adduction, this pose reveals it instantaneously, and it's easier to see than some other yoga poses that are more complex. It's worth it to just not even add the arms and just work on the legs. And if a student really struggles with it, instead of lifting the leg, they just slide that foot straight back instead of also trying to now lift it up and have it waving around in the air, open chain, unsteady. In fact, that open chain nature of it is quite difficult. Go ahead and push that foot into a wall, and then the student has more time to center the pelvis and make the foundation thigh perpendicular to the floor. Such a good pose. So much therapeutic value. All right, so our final variation would be coming back around to the way that people typically do the pose if you don't cue them to do a neutral spine. It's this alternating between the back bend and the rounding and the hugging in. So again, it's perfectly legitimate, but let's see if it feels better and more integrated and more coherent after working on neutral spine for so long. So go ahead and arch the back. You have to arch the back in order to lift the arm and the leg safely higher. And you can lift it as high as you would like. And as a student and as a teacher, you're looking to feel that you're not getting pinching. You're not getting diffuse achiness. Those are all signs that something's too arched or too rounded. That diffuse achiness comes in often when you hug opposite knee and elbow in towards one another. And that diffuse achiness can mean that you rounded your low back and tucked your pelvis faster than you flexed your hip. So if you feel yucky in your low back after hugging knee to elbow, If you feel yucky in your sacroiliac joints, I would say hold neutral as long as you can. Don't even start to round the back at all. Resist that until the knee is past the hip joint. Once your knee is past the hip joint and starting to come closer to the head, then softly let the back round. Don't overdo it. It shouldn't feel achy and sore. All right, so we've really gone through this pose and broken it down into so many ways. We've used the pole, we've used blocks, we've used bolsters, we've done it upside down, we've done it in side plank, we've done it with neutral spine, and we've done it with a flexed or a back bending spine. Lots of fun ways to explore this pose to train your body how to break some of those dusty old patterns that are not serving you, and take this pose even further into culmination or apex poses like a warrior 3. After working your neutral spine and pointer dog, I challenge you to stand up and try warrior 3, and it should feel easy as pie. It's like nothing at all to lift that leg up and stretch those arms out. All the right muscles are working. There's no hoping or wishing. You probably don't even need to do a lot of conscious engagement. Those muscles are already turned on and available. And this complex pose is built off of this basic foundation, wonderful pointer dog pose. All right. So our takeaways are: 1, can you find neutral spine? Now you know why it's so important. 2, use external props and cues to make sure that you're doing the pose with a neutral spine. And 3, figure out if you're a lumbar flexion, you round that spine too fast and you don't flex the hip fast enough kind of core person, or do you just arch that low back so quickly and you flex the hip way too quickly, core type. That lumbar extension type, lumbar flexion type, you need opposite cues. And so you need to start discerning for yourself when to ignore the teacher and when to trust your body and your instincts and what you've learned instead. The number one question that I'd like you to explore in your practice is use that pole and figure out what parts of your body are consistently too far ahead of that pole and they can't get back, and which parts of your body easily touch that pole. Those 3 points are going to need to move forward or back in many, many other yoga poses. Take that pole with you into those other poses and then start thinking about that in terms of your posture. All right, thanks for joining me for these episodes of Pointer Dog. Go to our website to get the cheat sheet. You have to subscribe at theyogaposers.com, and you'll get your free tutorials only available to subscribees. And then like, subscribe, follow, and share these episodes. Doing those things helps the algorithm figure itself out for other people wanting to strengthen their practice, defeat movement and postural patterns that are working for them, and fall in love with yoga again. It's a wonderful practice when you do the cues that are right for you. All right, I'm Sarah Westbrook. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.